Aggarwal, Academic Counselor, IGNOU. Today we are studying MMPC 016 International Business Management, Block 1 Introduction to International Business, Unit 3 International Business Environment. About environment we are going to study in this particular unit. Every firm, whether operating domestically, doing trade within the domestically means doing trade within India. Say buyer is in Bombay, seller is in Delhi, seller is in Bombay, buyer is in Delhi, or internationally. International means suppose you are exporting 10,000 shirts from here to USA. So this is you are doing business with USA firm. So this is international business, is influenced by external environment forces that are beyond its control. In domestic business, firms deal with taxation, government policies, competition, licensing, legal compliances, ecological concerns, and technology related changes. So every firm, whether operating domestically or internationally, is influenced by external environmental forces that are beyond its control. And which are those forces? In domestic business, the forces are firms deal with taxation, they have to deal with taxation, government policies, they have to deal. Then there is lot of competition. Then buyer is very much particular from wherever he is going to get good quality, and at lesser price he is going to buy from that firm. Then licensing, then legal compliances, and then ecological concerns and technology related changes. However, in international business, this complexity multiplies as firms must navigate entirely new and unfamiliar environments across borders. The international business environment can be defined as the sum of all external forces acting upon a firm in foreign markets. So this is about international environment. In international business, this complexity multiplies, as firms must navigate, entirely new and unfamiliar with the environments across borders. They don't know much about that particular, country. The international business environment can be defined as the sum of all external forces acting upon a firm in foreign markets. Unlike domestic firms that are familiar with their political economy, international firms face uncertainties in foreign trade regimes, tax structures, political risks, cultural differences, and legal systems. To succeed, managers must analyze major elements of the international environment: political, economic, social, technological, ecological, and legal factors, collectively referred to as pestle analysis. So unlike domestic firms, fourth is technological, fifth is ecological, and sixth is legal factors, collectively referred to as pestle analysis. Globalization, liberalization, and privatization have reshaped the world trade environment, creating both opportunities and challenges. International markets must constantly evaluate the environment before entering a new market. So globalization, then liberalization, and privatization have reshaped the world trade environment, creating both opportunities and challenges. You see, international markets have constantly evaluated the environment before entering a new market. Some recent changes include World Trade Organization trade reforms versus protectionist measures such as Brexit and US trade policies, non-tariff barriers related to quality standards, technological disruptions through Industry 4.0 innovations like artificial intelligence, IoT and blockchain. Pandemic induced supply chain disruptions leading to China plus one sourcing strategies. So, some recent changes include World Trade Organization trade reforms versus protectionist measures such as Brexit and US trade policies, non-tariff barriers related to quality standards, technological disruptions through Industry 4.0 innovations like artificial intelligence, IoT and blockchain technology. Pandemic induced supply chain disruptions leading to China plus one sourcing strategies. National self-reliance initiatives such as India's Atmanirbhar Bharat and production linked incentives. Atmanirbhar Bharat means we are self-sufficient. We need not depend on other countries. And production linked incentives. Debt crisis in developing countries and geopolitical tensions such as China's debt trap diplomacy. For business, this means reassessing competitive advantages while aligning with the evolving political and economic climate of target markets. So, national self-reliance initiatives such as India's Atmanirbhar Bharat and production linked incentives, debt crisis in developing countries and geopolitical tensions such as China's debt trap diplomacy. For businesses, this means reassessing competitive advantages while aligning with the evolving political and economical climate of target markets, where you can sell your product. You have to search those markets and you have to target them. The political environment of a country directly influences international businesses. It shapes policies, regulations, trade laws and stability, all of which determine its investment attractiveness. Political ideologies, three main systems exist: pluralism, where multiple groups coexist and contribute to decision making, that is Scandinavian nations; totalitarianism, characterized by authorization control with restricted freedoms, that is North Korea, China; and democracy, which ensures freedom of speech, elections, independent judiciary and protection of property rights. MNCs, multinational companies, usually prefer democracies for their stability and legal safeguards. Political risks, risk can be micro, targeting specific foreign firms, that is India's restriction on Chinese FDI post 2020, or macro, affecting all foreign investors. Risks include expropriation, strikes, trade restrictions or diplomatic breakdowns. So, under political risks, we see risk can be micro, targeting specific foreign firms, that is India's restrictions on Chinese FDI post 2020 or macro affecting you see all foreign investors. Risks include expropriation, strikes, trade restrictions or diplomatic breakdowns. Government intervention, governments may follow individualistic you see policies, that is minimal interference, that is USA you see, or communitarian you see policies, high interference, that is Turkey. In Germany also you see high intervention is there. Political strategies for firms to operate effectively. Companies must identify key political issues, analyze you see competing firms' political influence, study decision you see makers and design strategies that enhance the firm's image while minimizing political threats. So, political strategies for firms to operate effectively. Companies you see must identify key political issues, analyze competing firms' political influence, study decision makers and design strategies that enhance the firm's image with minimizing political threats. Countries offer vastly in development and market potential, making it you see crucial for multinational companies to assess production factors and demand conditions. So, countries differ vastly in development and market potential, making it crucial for multinational companies to assess production factors and demand conditions. Classification by income, you see the World Bank categorizes countries into low income, that is rupees 80,000 or less approximately, lower middle income, that is rupees 86,001 to 3,37,500, upper middle income rupees 3,37,501 to rupees 10,46,000, high income rupees 10,46,000 or more. So, classification by income is done by the you see World Bank. It categorizes countries into low income, where rupees 86,000 or less approximately, that is low income, low middle income 86,001 to 3,37,500, upper middle income 3,37,501 to 10,46,000, high income 10,46,001 or more. Classification by region. Multinational companies often analyze markets geographically for logistics, supply chain design and regional marketing strategies. Classification by economic systems. Countries can be you see free economies, market driven, that is USA, United Kingdom, command economies, state controlled, you see that is China, United States of Soviet Sun, pre 1991, traditional economics, custom based, that is you see tribal Africa, and mixed economies you see combining both, that is India and France. Now, classification by region, you see multinational companies often analyze markets geographically for logistics, supply chain design and regional marketing strategies. Then classification by economic systems. Countries can be you see free economies like you see USA, UK. Then command economies, state controlled, that is China, USSR pre 1991. Next is traditional economies, that is custom based, that is tribal Africa, and mixed economies, you see that is our country and France. Now, key economic changes are unemployment, you see, and second is inflation. Now, unemployment leading to lower incomes and reduced you see consumption. Inflation, persistent price rises due to supply demand you see imbalances, you see demand is more, supply is less, naturally price will you see rise and inflation will take place. Next is key economic challenges are, you see, business cycles, phases of expansion and contraction causing instability, then stagnant growth, you see, stopped, growth has stopped. It is at the same point, you see, slow or declining productivity for international firms evaluating, you see, gross domestic product growth, per capita income, you see, inflation and foreign reserves is critical to market entry decisions. Culture shapes consumption, communication, you see, and business practices, making it essential for international managers to study, you see, cultural nuances. Stability through language and, you see, religion. Language unifies cultural, you see, practice, while religion influences, you see, food, lifestyles, working hours and holidays, you see. Whenever festivals are there, naturally, you see, you like to have holidays. Next is cultural identification. Nations often differ in values, beliefs, languages and, you see, religions, which define consumer behavior. Culture evolves over generations, but can also be influenced by globalization, migration or foreign media. Forced imposition of one culture over another leads to cultural, you see, imperialism. So, cultural identification means nations often differ in values, beliefs, languages and religions, which define consumer behavior. Culture evolves over generations, but can also be influenced by globalization, migration or foreign media. Forced imposition of one culture over another, you see, leads to cultural imperialism. Next is social stratification. Societies rank individuals based on merit, family status, gender, age or occupation, in which profession you are. For example, Japan values, you see, seniority in promotions, you see, they give promotions to senior people. Middle Eastern nations restrict women's workforce participation, you see, while family owned businesses in many countries, you see, prioritize, you see, lineage. So, under social stratification, we see societies rank individuals based on merit, family, status or gender, age or occupation. For example, Japan values seniority in promotions, they give promotion to senior, the person who is senior, he will get promotion. Middle Eastern nations restrict women's, you see, workforce participation, they do not allow women to work, while family owned businesses in many countries, you see, prioritize lineage, you see, next person will own, you see, turn by turn, and next person who is senior will own the family business, like, you see, joint Hindu families in our country, you see. Next, strategies for managing, you see, cultural differences, adjusting to local practices to some extent, then ensuring effective communication through language training and cross cultural, you see, education. So, strategies for managing cultural differences are, you see, adjusting to local practices to some extent, and second is ensuring effective communication through language training and cross cultural, you see, education. Then understanding non-verbal cues or silent language like gestures and body languages, you see. The next is preparing for culture shock and reverse culture shock when employees return home. So, understanding, you see, strategies for managing cultural differences are understanding non-verbal cues or silent language like gestures and body languages, preparing for culture, you see, shock and reverse culture shock when employees, you see, return home. Technology environment, technology is a, you see, driving force of, you see, modern international business. Then manufacturing transformation, technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, IoT, blockchain technology, CAD, then ERP and flexible manufacturing are, you see, redefining supply chains and competitiveness. So, under technological environment, we see technology is driving force of modern international business. Manufacturing transformation, technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, IoT, blockchain technology, CAD, ERP and flexible manufacturing are redefining supply chains and competitiveness. Communication advances, you see, digital tools such as email, Zoom, WhatsApp and MS Teams have revolutionized, you see, global connectivity at, you see, minimal cost. Internet penetration is expanding worldwide, with India ranking third in user numbers after China and the USA. So, under communication advances, we see digital tools such as email, you see, Zoom, WhatsApp and MS Teams have revolutionized global connectivity at minimal cost, you see. Now, if you want to got some work with somebody, you send an email, you see, immediately he will receive. Earlier, we used to convey over phone. If it is ISD, we have to pay more, you see. Now, of course, mobile, the charges are very less. Then we used to write letters also, it used to take time. So, internet penetration is expanding worldwide, you see, with India ranking third in user numbers. You see, we are third after China and the USA. You see, China and USA, they are, you see, first two, and then third is India for internet users. Business implications, rapid innovation cycles demand shorter planning, partnerships, e-commerce strategies, virtual organizational structures and focus on cyber security. Companies must constantly innovate to retain a competitive edge despite high startup and research and development costs. So, under business implications, we see rapid innovation cycles demand shorter planning, partnerships, e-commerce strategies, virtual organization structures and focus on cyber security. Companies must constantly innovate to retain a competitive edge despite high startup and research and development costs. Then ecological environment sustainability is now central to international business. Reckless industrialization, deforestation, urbanization and population have led to ecological crises such as ozone depletion, climate change and biodiversity loss. So, under ecological environment, we see environment sustainability is now central to international business. Reckless industrialization, deforestation, urbanization and population have led to ecological crises such as ozone depletion, climate change and biodiversity, you see, loss. Companies total must adopt green practices such as, you see, reducing pollution and carbon footprints, supporting renewable energy use, recycling and waste management, then preserving, you see, flora and fauna. So, companies today must adopt green practices such as reducing pollution and carbon footprints, supporting renewable energy use, then recycling and waste management, preserving flora and fauna, manufacturing energy efficient products, aligning with global initiatives like the United Nations Global Compact and World CSR. Sustainable development is viewed as both a corporate responsibility and a competitive advantage in appealing to environmentally conscious consumers. So, manufacturing energy efficient products, aligning with global initiatives like the United Nations Global Compact and World CSR. Sustainable development is viewed as both a corporate responsibility and a competitive advantage in appealing to environmentally conscious consumers. Next is legal environment. International firms must comply with diverse legal systems across countries. Types of legal systems are common law, preceded based, that is USA, followed in USA, UK, and civil law, code based, that is France, Germany, Japan, and theocratic law, that is religion based, that is in Iran. So, under legal environment, we see international firms must comply with diverse legal systems across countries. Now, types of legal systems are, first is common law, precedent based, that is USA, UK, it is followed there. Then civil law, code based, it is followed in France, Germany, Japan. And next is theocratic law, that is religious based, it is followed in Iran. Now, consumer protection laws safeguard buyers through product liability and compensation mechanism. Legal services, multinational companies often rely on local law firms for contracts, dispute resolution and intellectual property rights. Then cross border issues, regulations vary across nations regarding wages, working hours, imports and investments. So, consumer, under legal environment, we see consumer protection laws safeguard buyers through products liability and compensation mechanisms. Then next is legal service. Multinational companies often rely on local law firms for contracts, dispute resolution and intellectual property rights. Next is cross border issues. Regulations vary across nations regarding wages, working hours, imports and investments. Now, legal environment, ethical legal dilemma. Not all unethical practices are illegal, and legal systems may lag behind ethical concerns. Arbitration in neutral countries is often preferred for resolving disputes. International firms must balance compliance with local laws and universal ethical standards. They must comply the local rules and regulations. Otherwise, they will be fined heavily. So, under legal environment, we see in ethical legal dilemmas. Not all unethical practices are illegal, and legal systems may lag behind ethical concerns. Arbitration in neutral countries is often preferred for resolving disputes. International firms must balance compliance with local laws and universal ethical standards. The international business environment is shaped by interconnected political, economic, social technologies, ecological and legal forces. Understanding these forces through pastel analysis is crucial for global firms, especially in today's volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world. You see, we write it VUCA, VUCA. V stands for volatile, U stands for uncertain, C stands for, you see, complex, and A stands for ambiguous. So, the international business environment is shaped by interconnected political, economic, social, technological, ecological and legal forces. Understanding these factors, you see, through pastel analysis is crucial for global firms, especially in today's VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world. Businesses must adopt strategies to local conditions while maintaining global competitiveness. Political ideologies, cultural values, economic indicators, technological innovations, ecological concerns and legal frameworks together determine the success or failure of international ventures. So, businesses must adopt strategies to local conditions while maintaining global competitiveness. Political ideologies, cultural values, economic indicators, technological innovations, ecological concerns and legal frameworks together determine the success or failure of international ventures. Managers who are culturally sensitive, technologically adaptive, environmentally responsible and legally compliant are better equipped to guide firms in the international arena. So, now they have made managers very responsible, very much responsible. So, managers who are culturally sensitive, technologically adaptive, environmentally responsible and legally compliant, you see, are better equipped to guide firms in the international arena. So, firms can have the guidance from them. Now, we come on the block 2, that is international trade between, you see, one country and another country, you see. Now, so for example, you are exporting 10,000, you have got an order from USA for, you see, Indian firm has got an order from a firm in USA for supply of 10,000, you see, cotton shirts, say white color, different sizes. Now, this seller in India, first of all, you see, he has to get the assurance that he will get the payment, you see, after order is dispatched. So, the buyer will send a letter of credit to the seller. Buyer's bank, you see, issues a letter of credit. Letter of credit means buyer's bank, you see, writes that if suppose you have met the order as per the requirement, you see, everything is okay, the quality which you mentioned, all the shirts are of that quality, different sizes, there is nothing wrong. So, we take the responsibility of payment, that buyer's banker will, you see, tell. So, when this is known as letter of credit, you see, when seller gets this letter of credit, you see, so now he is ready to export the goods, because he is sure that payment will come, because bank cannot say, you see, anything false. So, in international trade, this letter of credit plays a very important, you see, role. Now, what seller will do? He will go to his bank, he will, you see, borrow money from the bank for meeting this particular order. That is known as pre-shipment credit. You see, before the shipment, he will buy for buying raw material, he will borrow for buying raw material, he will borrow for sending, you see, for labor payment, you see, rent, if suppose factory is on rent, then electricity bill, rent, etc., all these are the expenses. Once the shipment is made, then post shipment credit is also available, you see, for any payments which are pending, then borrower can again borrow the money. And the moment the you see payment of the consignment is made by the foreign buyer, you see bank will close all these loan accounts which they have given, and remaining amount they will credit to the you see buyer's account. So this is how you see business goes on. The method is same. Suppose within India, if you are sending goods from you have sold the goods from Delhi to a person who is in Bombay. Now what you will do, you will sell the goods by you see truck. Say again shirts are there. That lorry receipt you will go to your bank and give that lorry receipt, your bill, all the document, and you ask bank to send these documents to the banker of the purchaser. So this is known as outward bill for collection. For bank it is outward bill for collection. So bank will send with its letter these documents to the banker of the buyer. Now buyer's banker, for buyer's banker this is inward bill for collection. For seller's bank it is outward bill for collections. For buyer's bank it is inward bill for collection. The moment he will receive the bill, he will call the you see buyer. So he will tell to the seller that he will tell to the buyer that you have to deposit money and we'll release the documents. You can take this lorry receipt. They get the delivery of the goods and then you sell them. And but before that you have to deposit money, so that this buyer's bank will send the money to the seller's bank, and seller's bank in turn will credit the account of the seller. This is how business is done locally. Same way business is done, you see, between two countries. If the businessmen are in different countries, suppose buyer is in USA, seller is in India. So Indian seller will first get LC, letter of credit, we have just now discussed. Then he will you see manufacture the goods, he will pack them, he will make the shipment, and all these documents he will give to his banker. His banker will send the documents to the banker of the seller, which is in foreign country, that bank. So the moment that bank will receive documents, he will give to the you see buyer those documents and receive and collect the money from the buyer and send that money to the seller's bank. Seller's bank in turn will credit the money to the seller's account. So this is how trade is you see done. Same method, whether it is local or internationally. You have to take the help of the bank. Without bank you cannot you see do it. If you want to do it without bank, say for example in India only, then you will ask the seller that you have to send the lorry receipt directly to the seller, and then seller will send you the draft, payment by draft. But normally people you see do it through the bank only. That is outward bill for collection, inward bill for collection. For seller's bank, that is outward bill for collection, he will send those documents under outward bill for collection. For buyer's bank, for that bank it will be inward bill for collection. They have received a bill and now they will collect the money and send to the you see seller's bank. So now we proceed further. You see trade theories. You see world history shows that much of global interaction, including wars and colonization, has revolved around trade. Empires like Britain, colonial powers in Africa and Latin America, and even modern conflicts such as you see US invasions in Iraq and Libya demonstrate that economics and trade often lie at the core of political and you see social struggles. Now world history shows that much of global interaction, including wars and colonization, has revolved around trade. Empires like Britain, colonial powers in Africa and Latin America, and even modern conflicts such as US you see invasions in Iraq and Libya demonstrate that economies and trade often lie at the core of political and social struggles. International trade theories attempt to explain these dynamics by analyzing you see trade patterns, motives and benefits for businesses, consumers and governments. These theories provide a framework to make decisions that enhance welfare, efficiency and competitiveness in the global economy. International trade theories attempt to explain these dynamics by analyzing trade patterns, motives and benefits for businesses, consumers and governments. These theories provide a framework to make decisions that enhance welfare, efficiency and competitiveness in the global economy. International trade theories can be broadly classified into classical, new classical and modern theories, including those related to foreign direct investment. They serve two main purposes. You see, first they explain the patterns and you see motives of trade, why some countries you see specialize in certain goods while others import, and how opportunity cost shapes production decisions. So international trade theories can be broadly classified into classical, new classical and modern theories, including those related to foreign direct investment. They serve two main purposes. First, they explain the patterns and motives of trade, why some countries you see specialize in certain goods while others import, and how opportunity cost shapes production decisions. Second, they highlight the impact of trade on domestic economies, providing you see insights for policymakers. By analyzing you see cause and effect relationships, governments can design policies that encourage exports, control imports and ensure economic growth. So classification and importance of trade theories, we see they highlight the impact of trade on domestic economies, providing you see insights for policymakers. By analyzing cause and effect relationships, governments can design policies that encourage you see exports, control imports and ensure economic growth. Ultimately, trade theories answer fundamental questions. Why do countries trade? Why don't strong economies produce everything domestically? Why do even advanced nations import certain goods? The answer lies in differing you see resource endowments and efficiency levels. Countries cannot be equally you see efficient in producing every good, and trade allows them to focus on goods where they have a relative you see advantage. So classification and importance of trade theories, we see trade theories answer fundamental questions. Why do countries trade? You see, naturally, if suppose we are in India, we are having some, we are manufacturing some particular item in excess, so it is more than consumption, you see, we are producing, so we will you see export it to the countries where it is not available. So why don't strong economies produce everything domestically? It is not possible, you see, because it depends on the resources. You see, if suppose we are having natural resources are for are too much for some particular you see product, naturally we will you see manufacture that product in high see quantity and then we will do export. Why do even advanced nations import certain goods? Same, you see, they are unable to produce that. The answer lies in differing resource endowments and you see efficiency levels. Countries cannot be equally efficient in producing every good, and trade allows them to focus on goods where they have a relatively advantage. For example, we take the example of shoes. You see, in Taiwan, you see soles are available very cheap. They are you see having these soles large quantities. So many shoe makers, shoe companies, they import the soles, and that top portion of the shoe they make here only, you see. So it comes out to be very cheap for them. So that is why you see these imports and exports you see are there. So trade theories answer fundamental questions. Why do countries trade? Why don't strong economies produce everything domestically, which is not possible? Why do even advanced nations import certain goods? The answer lies in differing resource endowments and efficiency levels. Countries cannot be equally efficient in producing every good, and trade allows them to focus on goods where they have a relatively advantage, which they can produce good quality which they can produce. Now international trade theories, mercantilism prevailing in Europe from the 16th to 18th centuries. Mercantilism emphasized national wealth and power through trade regulation, protectionism and accumulation of precious metals like gold and silver. So mercantilism, it is prevailing in Europe from the 16th to 18th centuries. Mercantilism emphasized national wealth and power through trade regulation, protectionism and accumulation of precious metals like gold and silver. Nations sought to maximize exports, minimize imports, because then their balance of payments will be good. If you export more, you will get foreign exchange, So export should always be more, import should be less, and maintain a favorable balance of trade, believing that stock piling bullion could fund wars and strengthen national security. Mercantilism, encouraged colonial, expansion and exploitation of resources, abroad. So nations sought to maximize exports, minimize imports and maintain a favorable balance of trade, believing that stockpiling bullion could fund wars and strengthen national security. Mercantilism, encouraged colonial, expansion and exploitation of resources, abroad. However, critics such as Adam Smith and David Ricardo rejected it, arguing that true wealth lies in the well-being of individuals and that excessive focus on global hinders productive capacity. They emphasized free markets, specialization and individual consumption as the real sources of national prosperity. So critics such as Adam Smith and David Ricardo rejected it, arguing that true wealth lies in the well-being of individuals and that excessive focus on gold hinders productive capacity. They emphasized free markets, specialization and individual consumption as the real sources of national prosperity. Adam Smith proposed that nations should specialize in producing goods in which they have an absolute cost advantage, meaning they can produce more efficiently with fewer resources than other nations. Each country should export goods it produces cheaply and import goods it produces less efficiently. That is what Adam Smith said. So Adam Smith proposed that nations should specialize in producing goods in which they have an absolute and cost advantage. They can manufacture it at a lesser price, meaning they can produce more efficiently with fewer resources than other nations. Each country should export goods if produces cheaply and import goods it produces less efficiently. That is what Adam Smith said. For example, if India produces tractors more efficiently while France produces trucks at lower cost, both benefit by specializing and trading. This mutual specialization increases overall production and consumption. The theory, however, fails when one country has an absolute advantage in producing all goods. Then this theory will fail. So they have explained it by example what Adam Smith said. If India produces tractors more efficiently while France produces trucks at lower cost, both benefit by specializing and trading. This mutual specialization increases overall productivity and consumption. The theory, however, fails when one country has an absolute advantage in producing all the goods. Now, David Ricardo, addressed the limitations of absolute advantage. His theory of comparative advantage shows that trade is still beneficial even when one country has an absolute advantage in producing all goods. What matters is relative efficiency. A country should specialize in producing goods for which it has the lowest opportunity cost and trade for others. That is what David Ricardo said. What he said, David Ricardo addressed the limitations of absolute advantage. His theory of comparative advantage shows that trade is still beneficial even when one country has an absolute advantage in producing, you see, all goods. What matters is relative efficiency. A country should, you see, specialize in producing goods for which it has the lowest opportunity cost and trade for, you see, remaining, you see, other, you see, goods. For instance, if France is more efficient in producing both jute and, you see, leather compared to India, but its relative efficiency is greater in jute, France should export jute while India should export, you see, leather. This principle underpins, you see, modern trade theory and demonstrates how all countries can gain from trade even if one is less efficient, you see, overall. So, according to David Ricardo, the example is if France is more efficient in producing both jute and leather compared to India, but its relative efficiency is greater in jute, France should export jute, you see, while India should export leather. This principle underpins modern trade theory and demonstrates how all countries can gain from trade even if one is less efficient, you see, overall. Ricardo's model was criticized for relying solely on the labor theory of value. Gottfried, you see, Haberler refined it by introducing the concept of opportunity cost, recognizing that multiple factors of production, that is labor, capital, affect production decisions. So, Ricardo's model was criticized for relying solely on the labor theory of value. Gottfried Haberler, you see, refined it by introducing the concept of opportunity cost, recognizing that multiple factors of production, labor, capital affect production decisions. According to Haberler, the cost of, you see, producing a good is measured by the amount of another good sacrificed. This approach illustrated, you see, through the productivity possibility curve, PPC, production possibility curve, allows for more realistic, you see, assumptions including substitution between factors of production and varying opportunity costs. So, according to Haberler, the cost of producing a good is measured by the amount of another good sacrificed. This approach illustrated through the production possibility curve, PPC, allows for more realistic, you see, assumptions including substitution between factors of production and varying opportunity costs. Although superior to Ricardo's model, critics like Jacob Weiner argued that opportunity cost theory fails to capture welfare implications and oversimplifies, you see, real world complexities. Although superior to Ricardo's model, critics like Jacob Weiner, you see, argued that opportunity cost theory fails to capture, you see, welfare implications and oversimplifies, you see, real world complexities. G.S. Mill extended Ricardo's comparative advantage by introducing the role of demand. He explained that the terms of trade, the ratio at which goods are exchanged internationally depend on the relative, you see, elasticity of demand in trading countries. So, according to G.S. Mill, he extended Ricardo's comparative advantage by introducing the role of demand. He explained that the terms of trade, the ratio at which goods are exchanged internationally depend on the relative elasticity of demand in trading countries. Using offer curves, Mill showed that trade benefits are not only determined by production costs but also by how much each country desires the others, you see, goods. So, using offer curves, Mill showed that trade benefits are not only determined by production costs but also by how much you see each country desires the other's goods. For example, if France produces linen more efficiently while Italy produces jute, trade occurs based on reciprocal demand determining mutual beneficial exchange rates. This theory emphasizes that both supply and demand jointly determine the trade flows. So, here we have explained it by example. If France you see produces linen, cotton, cloth more efficiently while Italy produces jute, trade occurs based on reciprocal demand determining mutually beneficial exchange rates. This theory emphasizes that both supply and demand jointly determine trade flows. Developed by Eli Heckscher and Bertil Ohlin, the HO model is one of the most influential new classical trade theories. It argues that comparative advantage arises from factor endowments, the relative abundance of capital and labor. Countries will export goods that intensively use their abundant resources and import goods requiring their scarce resources. Thus, capital rich nations export capital intensive products while labor rich nations export labor intensive goods. Unlike classical theories, the HO model incorporates multiple production factors. However, the model has limitations. It assumes a simplistic 2 into 2 into 2 framework, 2 countries, 2 goods, 2 factors. Homogeneous factors, constant returns to scale and identical consumers preferences, all unrealistic. It also neglects transport costs, economies of scale and technological differences. Further, the Leontief paradox challenged it empirically. Despite being capital rich, the US was found exporting labor intensive goods and importing capital intensive ones. Explanations include US protected tariffs, natural resources imports and emphasis on human capital. As multinational enterprises grew after World War II, traditional theories proved insufficient. New theories emerged to explain why firms invest abroad rather than simply exporting. Stephen Heimer argued that FDI arises due to market imperfections, particularly monopolistic advantages such as proprietary technology, access to finance, superior management and control over distribution systems. MNEs exploit these advantages abroad to offset higher costs of operating in foreign markets. By restricting competition and colliding with others, they maintain profitability and expand internationally. FDI can also be explained through the product life cycle, where innovations initially produced domestically are later shifted abroad as products mature. This theory highlights that firms engage in FDI to reduce transport costs associated with licensing or contracting in foreign markets. John Dunning electric paradigm combines multiple theories, offering a comprehensive explanation of FDI. It identifies 3 conditions: ownership advantage, location advantage, international advantage. International trade theories provide the foundation for understanding global commerce. Early theories such as mercantilism emphasize national wealth through trade surpluses, while classical theories like absolute and comparative advantage demonstrated the gains from specialization and efficiency. New classical theories like the Heckscher Ohlin model focused on factor endowments, but faced empirical challenges like the Leontief, you see, paradox. Over time, as MNEs emerged as dominant players, FDI theories evolved to explain cross-border investments. Heimer's market imperfections, the product life cycles, transaction cost theory, and Dunning's electric paradigm collectively highlight why firms, you see, abroad expand abroad. Why they open office abroad, you see. Together these theories show that trade and investment are driven by efficiency, resource endowments, demand, and firm specific advantages, you see, shaping the rational structure of international business, you see, today. Suppose we are our one firm in India, you see, then it opens offices in, you see, USA, other countries it opens. Now suppose the production takes place in our country, in India only. Now if it is, you see, supplying goods abroad, naturally it will produce more. While producing more, the fixed costs more or less will remain the same. Only variable costs will, you see, vary. They have to purchase more raw material, they have to engage more labor, you see. So in fact, by opening offices in different countries, now it can sell, its customer base will increase. It can, you see, sell products in those countries, and naturally sales, if sales will increase, profit will, you see, increase. Like banking sector also, you see, so many banks who are, you see, Indian owned, they have branches abroad, because the reason is only that there they get business, you see, and those customers who frequently like to send money abroad, they can, you see, take the help of, you see, those banks, and their customer base will also increase. They will have, you see, customers in foreign countries also, and naturally then banks business will increase, and then profit will, you see, increase. Similarly, we have discussed about companies who are having offices, you see, abroad. They will, you see, open, you see, they will sell, their sales will increase like this. So we are students, we are closing this session. Thank you very much, students.